Okay, so welcome today to a conversation about yoga business and mentoring. And today I have a pleasure. My name is Aneta Idczak, and today I have a pleasure of talking with Dawn Wright. So let us introduce ourselves in case you don't know that. So Dawn, welcome to this conversation. And thank you so much for joining me. And please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Aneta. So I might know some of you in the group. My name's Dawn Wright, and I have been a yoga teacher for my sins for 23 years now. So it seems like a lifetime ago that I done my teacher training. And probably during the period of that time, I've pretty much done all of the things that you might think a yoga teacher could do in terms of, I've done the classes and done corporate work and one-to-ones and retreats and retreat days and things like that, and still do a lot of that stuff now as well. Although, as you probably all know, as your teaching shifts and changes and your life teaches and shifts and change, other things change with it as well. I've also been training yoga teachers, I think, for 12 years now. Both in 200-hour courses and in sort of further training courses, specialist courses, and mentoring and business coaching yoga teachers as well for quite a number of years now. Mainly yoga teachers, so sometimes I work with other businesses like Pilates teachers, massage therapists, PTs, Reiki healers, that kind of stuff, but predominantly with yoga teachers.
Thank you, Dawn. And my name is Aneta Idczak. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a yoga teacher trainer specializing in trauma-informed yoga and embodied resilience. I'm also a mentor and somatic coach and body worker. I do Thai yoga massage, which I absolutely love. I know, Dawn, you do Thai yoga massage as well.
Absolutely, love it too.
And I've been mentoring people for close to 20 years, but my mentoring has started during my work during social care. And so initially it came very easily around supporting volunteers. And then as I worked in social care, I mentored and supervised and trained other workers. So with the yoga teachers, I've been working for the last few years. And when I left social care 6 years ago, just over 6 years ago, I suddenly stayed completely on my own without any support around me. And actually, if you are fully self-employed yoga teacher, you know what I'm talking about. And I think this is not far after that I came across Dawn. And so we've known each other for quite a few years. And, I know that Dawn is an amazing mentor. She's been my mentor for a long time. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation. Through mentoring a lot of yoga teachers, I realized that there is a certain gap within our yoga community. And, this is why I invited Dawn to talk to me about. So I wanted to ask you a first question, really, what's the first thing for you that comes up when I say yoga business and mentoring?
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties is in the yoga industry is perhaps that there's words used and perhaps they're not often explained what they really mean by that for a start. So people might have, just as like our yoga students might have an image in their head of what yoga is, and we all know that that's like a really broad spectrum. I think the term mentoring and coaching and other terms are intermingled for a start. And perhaps people don't know what mentoring is, what it isn't, and the different forms that it can take and how it can help people as well, because there isn't a one size fits all, and the term of mentoring for your yoga business could mean multiple different things actually as well.
Yeah. Can you explore a little bit more? Can you tell us a little bit more about it, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we look back at like the tradition of yoga teachers, I'm not going to say like disciples or anything like that, but a kind of teacher-student relationship. And I don't mean in terms of the students necessarily coming to our classes, but within the kind of teaching community, there would have originally been a teacher and a student who grew underneath that teacher. So they grew into a teacher by going to that class, assisting with that class, studying with that teacher, and becoming their own teacher then. So historically, we might have had that informal, you know, like it wasn't agreed, will you be my mentor? It sort of was a relationship, a mentor relationship that developed, where a teacher would have supported you in your growth in that journey from student to teacher. And maybe that's still there sometimes now, but I think it's certainly there much less now, partly because of, and it's not a negative thing that teacher trainings have changed, because actually in some ways it means we can have much more standards and learning objectives and all of those kind of things around an organized, structured yoga teacher training course. But that one-to-one relationship is lost that would have been there previously. And even if you had some mentorship on your course, and sadly I think a lot of yoga teacher training courses don't have that element, which I think they really, really should. But even then, often you get to the end of the course and then of course that stops unless there's some kind of continuing thing, and you're thrown out into the world to do whatever it is that you end up doing with your yoga teaching qualification. And there are multiple ways in which someone could be a mentor for you. So it could be formal or informal. So it could be someone who, not necessarily older, but further along the path that you are, that kind of is that supporting, taking you under your wing kind of role. And again, you might get that just through a friendship or relationship with another teacher, or through a studio, perhaps if you worked there, or on other further training courses. So I know, Aneta, like that your trauma-informed course mentoring is a big aspect of that as well. So you might get it through that kind of route. And your mentoring could be, you know, really about your teaching. It could be about feeding back about your lesson plans and observing you and growing those teaching skills. It could be mentoring you in how do I learn the business skills, and how do I have a sustainable business that is sustainable financially but sustainable energetically as well. It could be about a more emotional support for you rather than the nuts and bolts of something going on. So there can be lots of things that mentoring is and isn't. So mentoring, really, if we're looking at the term broadly, not just in yoga teaching, mentoring is about giving advice but not telling someone what to do. So you're empowering them in their own journey, but you are letting them have the benefit of your experience, your knowledge. That doesn't mean that the way that you've done it is the right way or the way for them, but you are giving them an insight into something that perhaps you have more knowledge or experience from. So it is different to pure coaching, and pure coaching is non-directive. You don't give advice at all. So you could have someone who was a coach who had no knowledge whatsoever of the yoga world, and they could be a really good coach because coaching is non-directive. But so for someone to be a mentor, they need to have some kind of knowledge, experience in whatever it is that you want mentoring in. So that will vary from person to person.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that explanation. And it's really exactly, you know, it's such a wisdom in what you just said. It's like, for a mentor, you know, you need to have gone through it yourself and be maybe a bit further down the road and really understand the challenges, and not that the person that you are mentoring will do it exactly the same way, but to really understand how the work that you do works. And this is something, I mean, I've worked with a number of coaches as well, and one of the most difficult things always is that they could never understand how I work as a yoga teacher. It was always like, well, I'll do just one offer and focus on this, have one niche, and I'm just like, well, yeah, but I do this and I do that, and I do classes and I do day retreats and I do courses and I do workshops, and I do online and I do offline, and it's like I work with this group of people, but then I work with that group of people, and it's being a yoga teacher can be such a complex thing, because it is very different from the way that a coach would work. Very different. They're not the same thing. Yeah, so having somebody, so the thing about mentoring is having somebody who's a bit further down the path, who understands the challenges of being a yoga teacher, who can share that experience and hold a safe space for you, but doesn't really tell you this is how you do it. And a lot of programs out there say, well, this is the secret and follow this way. And there's something in here, you know, that relates for me from nervous system regulation kind of point of view. One, there is this kind of, I'm holding a safe space for you, so therefore there is a co-regulation part happening. Like, you know, if you're freaking out and I'm holding space for you, I can hold the safe space for you and guide you through it, so you come into this calmer space where you can make decisions easier. And the second thing is about really, you know, helping somebody to find their own way. Like, if I think about the way that both you and me work, like I see how you take people off to Spain for a retreat and do this and do that. And I love it. And I love the idea. And yet I know that for me, if I did it so often as you did, my nervous system would not be happy. My body would start showing me, you know, I know that from experience, that kind of stuff, that this is too much. I'm trying to do too many things. I'm trying to juggle too many things. So there is something about helping somebody find their own path, the way that it works best for them, who they are, their personality, their vibe, their experience, as somebody who's, you know, who's been on that path for a bit longer. So I wonder, you know, it's like what like there are so many challenges, and like we've had conversations about mentoring so many times, and that kind of that support and really, you know, I guess the question that is coming up is like, what do you see the biggest kind of resistance or the biggest challenge when it comes to yoga teachers accessing mentoring?
I think previously, I think it's being talked about a lot more at the moment, but there are certain professions and ways of working where mentoring or supervision is a kind of an accepted part of the path. So I know that in your social worker work, you would have done a lot of supervision type work. In the more formal coaching stuff that I do, you know, you have a mentor, you can have peer coaching, supervision. There's this ongoing support that is much more down that kind of mentoring side of things. And there seems to be a tendency in the yoga world of, and you and I both offer further training. So it's not to say, again, further training is not a bad thing. Of course, we want to grow our skills and our knowledge, but it seems to be that seems to be where everyone puts their time, their attention, and their money. And if you really want to learn something, then that's great. But often I think people perhaps do further training because they feel a lack of worth or confidence or clarity. And actually maybe mentoring would give them those things much more than just going to do another training course would anyway. So it would help them to really see the direction that they want to go in. It can help them when there's too many ideas, which often we have as well, like I call it like shiny object syndrome. It's like, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. And we can't do them all. So it can help you to narrow down your vision. And equally, a good mentor will help you to widen out your vision, because sometimes we're really tunnel visioned. And that experience, again, it's not telling them what to do, but you might be able to say, okay, so you're looking at it this way, but what if you approached it in this way or this way or this way? How would they be different for you? Which one would work for you the most, so that they start to make, you know, the best decisions for themselves? And it can just be a really lonely world as a yoga teacher. You're with people all the time, but you're holding that space for them. And, you know, in all of the things that we then suddenly just discover we have to do, and all of the admin and being a marketer and being an accountant and holding space for people, and all of those multiple things. I think this gets pushed to the bottom as being seen as not important.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, I think a lot of people would find that the things that they're struggling with are so much helped by having mentoring, that everything then feels more at ease and more like you're in the flow.
Yeah.
When you've got some of that support and nurturing, and like I say, sometimes containing and sometimes broadening out your vision.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you just said, because this is what I learned. I learned very early on in social care that a lot of my well-being or others' well-being as workers depends on the quality of support. Like, you can deal with almost anything when you've got enough support around you, when you feel like I've got somebody to turn to actually ask that question. I'm not sure what to do with it, or I'm really struggling, and actually sharing it with somebody who says, well, I understand. Yes, it is a lonely thing, and let's look at it together. Let's kind of flesh it out. And, because we all have our own bias and our own way of kind of getting lost in our experience. Like, quite well, for example, my thing is I've got so many ideas and I'm so interested in so many different things that I just want to bring, ideas are not a problem. Creating something is not a problem. I can just add new things again and again and again, but then I run out of time. And so, having somebody like you say to me, well, okay, so you're bringing that new thing and it's quite a big thing. So what you're gonna let go of? It's I don't want to let go of anything. I've worked too hard on it. It's working quite well. It cannot just keep adding in and bringing in new things all the time, which leads to overwhelm and kind of, burnout possibly. And, I went into teaching yoga, so I don't experience burnout like I did in social care. And, burnout for yoga teachers, it's a real thing. And I've seen quite a lot of that, some of it down to the pandemic. But even before the pandemic, before the last 2 years, I've seen a lot of yoga teachers just quitting working because, one, it wasn't paying the bills. It was taking a lot of their time. They were already tired doing other work to pay for their training and pay for their life and their family. That, something had to give, and it's normally teaching yoga, because there was so little return on the effort that they were making. So, I mean, I wonder how could we change something like this? Because it's what you're talking about. We're talking about the culture within the yoga community, that there is that culture. Well, let's do some more training. Like, I did my 200 hours, I did my 500 hours, and now I do the restorative. Now I do yin. Now I do trauma informed. Now I do, something else, kind of adding in. Now I do yoga nidra. I've done all of them, so I know.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all got the certificates of all those trainings, and they are great. But like you say, I think that is almost, it's just one part of the puzzle, isn't it? Doing further training if you want to have a career that is sustainable and growing and long term, not just financially but energetically as well. And we need to look at the other side. And I kind of almost think maybe there's 3 different, maybe we've got training is one thing, growing our knowledge, and then there's the business skills, like the nuts and bolts business skills that are a different thing. But then, like you say, that mentoring is you can get some of that nuts and bolts support from your mentor, definitely. But there's also that aspect of that support network. And really encouraging that. You often end up being, even students, teachers that you work with in a yoga studio, you pass each other on the stairs. Hi, you've just taught this class. Bye, I'm teaching this class. Is about having a network. So a mentor is perhaps like the pinnacle of having one person that you've got there as well. But the wider network, I think, is really important as well. Because obviously mentoring could be a one-to-one thing, or it could be a group thing, and they both have a different dynamic to it, and they're both going to bring different things to the table. So in that one-to-one mentoring, then you've obviously got that complete attention. It's like really focused on what you need. But within a group mentoring, you've got that sense of, you know, someone else has just asked that question that I didn't want to ask because I thought it was a stupid question. Everyone else feels the same as me. I'm not alone. This is, you know, these other people are on a similar path to me. They're having similar worries, similar concerns as well. And I think it's the importance of, you don't have to do it alone. And we talk about community and love and light and all these wonderful things that we put into our marketing. We talk about self-care. We talk about taking time out. We talk about letting go. And we are the worst people for doing it for ourselves. And I think there needs to be a real emphasis on, you know, all this stuff you're telling your students to do. We need to do this both in our personal lives and in our professional lives, because they're so interwoven generally as well. Most people become yoga teachers because they love yoga. They love the way it's helped them. They love a transformation that it's given them in some way, shape or form. And so those boundaries between what is personal and professional are much more blurred than, you know, if I sold screws like Screwfix, maybe I wouldn't be quite so emotionally involved with screws when I went home as I am in the yoga world. So it's also much harder because of that, because personal and professional merge into each other so much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's fascinating, because one of the feedback, you know, talking about the mentoring, and you mentioned my trauma-informed yoga teacher training and mentoring course. And, you know, it was built around, well, there is the training bit around trauma-informed yoga. There is about yoga for trauma. But here there is the mentoring, the group mentoring and the one-to-one mentoring that is included in it, and the body sessions, you know, working in the breakout rooms, but also having weekly body sessions with other people on the training to create that community. And it's a really interesting thing, because one of the feedback that I get so often from participants and from graduates of the training is how much, through understanding more about the nervous system regulation, through working through the program, how much their relationship with themselves have changed. You know, how much more aware they are that they need to really prioritize themselves. You know, how, when I talk about, well, has your teaching become your practice, rather than you've got a separate practice that is just for you. There's nobody around. It is just for you, where you connect with yourself, with how you are, with what you need. What can you do for yourself to nurture yourself, so then you can support others? Because we all know that on the mind level. But yeah, we, you know, in a busyness, as you said, in a busyness of being and working as a yoga teacher, being marketeer, being accountant, being a cleaner sometimes, being, you know, a teacher, all of that, admin worker, all of that kind of stuff, you know, we can lose sometimes that connection with self, and really that understanding that we have to prioritize ourselves, because our business is us. And if we are ill, if we can't do that, if we hit burnout, that's it. Nobody benefits. And sometimes it takes a really long time for us to recover.
Yeah, definitely. And we don't generally, as well, if you're a self-employed yoga teacher, like I would like to know, and it's one of the things I often have conversations with people about, how much annual leave do you give yourself? Like, because, you know, we might get into that rut of, well, I'm only taking time off because I'm going away that week. Well, if you're in a regular job, you just take time off and have a week pottering at home, wouldn't you? Because you've got annual leave to use. So what's your annual leave allocation? Like, how are you going to, you know, fully support yourself? Are you giving yourself 2 days off a week? You know, things that we would assume to be normal in most other jobs, we don't even apply the simple things in our own jobs. If I'm teaching an evening, where's my time off in the day? Because if I had a 9 to 5 job, then I would have my evenings off. And
that's what I was just thinking, exactly there. It's like a lot of us teach in the evenings, a lot of us teach early mornings, a lot of us teach weekends. I mean, I remember at some point I was starting 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday with a guided meditation online, and then work all the way through seeing clients, doing admin, doing all sorts of stuff. And then the last class would be 6:30 till 8. And, you know, that before the pandemic, when it was live, I wouldn't get back home till like after 9 o'clock. That's over 13 hours of being really on the go. And that's only Monday. And so the Tuesday would come and I would be really tired, and then trying to kind of get through the day with all the commitments. So yeah, good question. How much annual leave and how much breaks do you give yourself to have that work-life balance?
And I think a mentor can often be the person who, you know, we might know it on a, you know, a knowledgeable level, but then we don't do it. We don't implement it. And sometimes as well, our mentor is that one who can kind of pull us up a little bit and say, you're looking tired. Like, maybe no one else wants to say it to you. You're looking tired. Are you doing too much? Where is your breaks? When's the last time you had a week off? Yeah. Like, sort of giving you some, you know, prompt, because you can only you can ever put those boundaries in place. But your mentor can certainly be that person who sometimes asks you those difficult questions as well, and gets you to just stop and reflect a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I know what you're talking about personally, and you know, it's like getting angry with my partner because he's saying, you all the time work, everything is about yoga and you just work all the time. And we getting really upset. It's like, but I am trying my best. I'm trying to make it work. And if I don't do it, nobody will do it. And it's like, it takes time to step back from it and think, right, hang on a second. I am creating it. If I'm working in that kind of way, maybe I need to shift it. Maybe I need to change it. And if I don't know how to do it, the mentor is a good person to actually have that conversation with, to explore it. What else I can do? How else I can do it? So I'm not working 7 days a week for barely being able to pay my bills, getting really stressed out, telling people, as you said, you know, love and light, all peace, let's get connected, and a sense of oneness, and then waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning really anxious because I don't know how I'm going to pay for my mortgage or for my council tax. And actually what I'm talking about is not that uncommon. I mean, you know, through mentoring, I've had so many conversations with other yoga teachers who really struggle with that business part of being a yoga teacher. Like, they know how to teach, they love teaching, they can hold a really great space, but they don't have that, you know, yoga business piece of how to make it sustainable, of how to, and a lot of yoga teachers just think, oh, just add another class, but how many classes can you add? As a woman who's almost 50, I really cannot do a lot of classes. That's just, you know, I could do it maybe 10 years ago, but now it's just, my body is just not happy doing it that way. So thinking, you know, the only way is to learn something else. So, you know, as a yoga business mentor, this is not a tricky question at all. I know it's difficult to put it in one sentence, but I wanted to ask, what's one thing, like one piece of advice that if you only could give one piece of advice to yoga teachers, what would that be?
I think it would be to plan your business to give you the life you want, not the other way around. So we're often end up, like you're saying, busy and overwhelmed because when this is all going perfectly, I'll have this life. So from day one, plan your business to suit the life that you want. And that doesn't mean you're going to start earning loads of money from day one. And it doesn't mean it won't change because, you know, teaching over 23 years, the kind of lifestyle I wanted when I wanted to work, when I didn't want to work, how I wanted to work has changed through having 3 children and then them growing up and you know, different things. So, you know, but I would say if you don't want to work evenings, then why build a business where you work evenings?
Yeah.
If you don't want to work weekends, why build a business where you don't want to work weekends? If you don't want to, you know, so we can get so into this, I should do this. If you don't like travel, why would you ever think about running a retreat? It's like really build the business that plays to your passions and your strengths and fits into the life that you want, and design it like that from day one. Of course, it will change as things in your life change, but we so often do it the other way around and just get overwhelmed and feel like we're not actually living a life, we're just existing from one day to another. And I would probably say that to anyone who's self-employed as well. It's not exclusive to yoga teachers. It's like the whole point of being self-employed is you get to decide. So don't then make it feel like a restrictive job, which is possibly why you left your job in the first place. Like design it how you want it to be.
Yeah, I love what you just said. I absolutely love it, because I'm thinking about my own experience. When I left social care, I already was running a yoga studio, and you know, a little studio in the little place that I'm living, and you know, I had students, and I think I had 8-10 classes, and I had one-to-ones, and so it was really good. But then you know, I ended up being in that studio running it on my own, and which I didn't take into account when I left social care work. And I ended up being there 7 days a week. And I remember looking at the values and what I wanted. And I remember there were like 5 values, and like, you know, authenticity and connection and integrity in the way that I work. All of them were kind of met, apart from one, and that one last, that was freedom, was not there. I was there every single day, normally from early morning till the evening. And I was just like, well, it's like I'm doing what I love, but I feel more stuck in one place. I have less freedom than when I was working in social care full-time and teaching evenings and weekends at the studio. And so, because I had to make it work, obviously, with the rent and with everything else. So there was much more commitment that I had to fulfill. And, you know, it's sometimes we have an idea that something will give us something, some kind of experience or some kind of lifestyle. And actually it might not. It's so tuning it into what you were just saying, you know, designing it around how you want to live your life, and not coming out of fear, because it is, a lot of it is fear, isn't it? It's like, if I don't teach in the evening, I'm going to lose all those students and I'm not going to have new students in. If I only want to teach during the day, that's going to be a problem. And it might be the case that you will lose some of those students, but you can always bring new students in. If you're teaching during the day, you can always build it up that there are new people coming through to work one-to-one with you, and really adjust it to the way that works for you. But I think it takes courage, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it takes a little bit of thinking outside of the box, and particularly as a new teacher, you might look at what others are doing and you move into that world of should. I should do this, I should do classes, I should offer this, I should do it this way. And it's like, actually, one of the things that I think has changed since I first kind of entered the yoga world, and probably even my own perspective, is when I first became, not even when I trained to be a yoga teacher, when I first started yoga, which was over 30 years ago, hand on heart, I have to say, confession time, I didn't look at yoga teachers and think that's a profession at that time. I thought most people, it's a bit of pin money, one night a week. This isn't something you can make a job out. That was my impression 30 years ago. And actually, whilst there is, and people will talk about a lot more competition, of course, there's a lot more yoga teachers and stuff out there. I also think the way in which you can use yoga, or use yoga with other skills and knowledge and other modalities. Like, there is so much out there that can be offered now, that any crazy thing that you could think of, I bet someone's doing it, and if they're not, I bet you can make a business out of it. So actually our world is our oyster if we let go of that fear. And I'm not saying do that in a way that is irresponsible. If you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got to pay your mortgage. I'm not saying who cares, the universe will provide everything, just go and stick £20,000 on your credit card. Or, you know, it has to be tangible, but let go of that fear and chase what it is that you're passionate about. And that's perhaps another thing, is that the things that you're passionate about, in my experience, things that you're really passionate about, are the ones that are most successful. Yeah. Because you've just got like ants in your pants, I describe it as, about doing something. So again, that sort of thing of, if you start to feel dread about something you're offering, or a particular class, or having to travel on a Tuesday night, or whatever it is, then these are indications we really need to step back and go, what's going on there? I need to have a look at this.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And actually, you know, what you're just saying is to really have that time for inner checking in and inner inquiry, and really reviewing what's working on a regular basis. I know that I'm guilty myself of holding on to some classes or some offerings or certain way of working that I knew for a long time it's not working, but yet, you know, it's kind of working. So I'm going to try to make it work. It's kind of like, if only I try a little bit harder, maybe I can make it work in there. And yeah, it's a difficult thing. The other thing that you just said, you know, it's about yoga teaching not being a profession. That's a really interesting thing, because I remember thinking when I left social care, even 6 years ago, I remember thinking at some point, well, I'm just a yoga teacher. I am just a yoga teacher, as if that 20 years of experience have disappeared somehow, dissolved, because now my main thing is teaching yoga. You know, all the training, all the supervision, all the, you know, qualifications and learning and experience of working with others in very difficult situations suddenly didn't matter, because I was just a yoga teacher. And it took me quite a few years to actually kind of integrate it back and just think, well, actually, no, yes, you know, I teach yoga, that's the modality that I do, and I absolutely love it, but it's informed by all the other experience that I bring in. And all the other qualifications. And as you said, nowadays you can bring those different modalities. You can start kind of integrating it and creating something that is very unique, that comes from your own point of view, your own kind of flavor, your own vibe, your own way of describing it or working with it. And in that way, there is no competition. You know, there are other trauma-informed teacher trainings out there, but none of them bring, you know, most of them don't bring focusing, embodied listening, or somatic piece, or the experience that I have, or the personality that I have, or the way I hold the groups, the way I mentor. So in a sense, I'm not competing with other people. Like even this morning, I was speaking with somebody who's signing up for the next cohort in May. And she was saying, I looked at so many different trainings and I really liked the way that you are, and this training, it's got everything that I'm looking for in those ways. And this is somebody who's already working in social work, got loads of knowledge about trauma, and, you know, qualified yoga teacher, and wants to bring it in. And so when we are quite clear, exactly what you just said, when you are quite clear about what you love doing, what really matters to you, and you talk about it, you know, because ultimately the way that I think is, it's not about me, it's about this thing that I share, that I invite you to do with me. So then you can create your own thing so you can share with others. And so often we, you know, we take it so personally, we kind of almost get in the way of expressing it, this You know, you can call it light, you can call it prana, your unique prana, you can call it, you know, your spiritual thing or your soul. That calling that we have, that if only we allow ourselves to share that, there won't be any competition in that kind of way.
Yeah. And I think when you're really true to yourself, and you know, there's that saying, the hardest thing to do is to try and be something you're not. So if we're really true to ourselves, then we will attract the right people. And again, I don't mean this in like some airy fairy, they're just all going to come piling through the door kind of way. I just mean that you're actually better to strongly attract the right people and actually to repel the people that are not your audience. And that is not a negative thing, but we can sometimes sit in that very beige area of just trying to please everyone all the time. Yeah. Instead of saying, no, this is my passion, these are my values, this is my truth. And if that resonates with you, then come along. And if it doesn't, that's great, because there'll be someone else out there for whom whatever they're offering is going to be right for you as well. So clarity is much better to really attract the right people to you and to repel the people that you are not a good fit for, without anyone feeling that that means I'm not good enough. Because, you know, we all like different flavors of ice cream. It's not a negative thing. It's just, you know, it's so much easier if you're just yourself, and then you have the confidence to offer what you want to offer.
Yeah. And in that way, it's something, there is a word that you just said, confidence. And, you know, one of the things that, and I love that you just said that, because one of the things that I see a lot, yoga teachers and, you know, other professionals think, and other people think, is that confidence comes first, then I'm really good at it, and then I do it. Whereas my experience is that you do something, you do it again and again and again and again and again and again, and then through your experience, the confidence comes in. Yeah. And it's like you become confident. I'm confident. I'm doing this class. I'm not freaking out. I'm not feeling anxious. I'm not crying afterwards, thinking that it was so awful, which is, by the way, a normal way at the beginning. And, you know, you kind of, I'm confident. I know what I'm talking about, and I can share that with others. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah. So I wonder if there is anything else, maybe to make it in a practical terms, because I know that you are very practical, and I've been very practical as well. So on a practical note, is there anything that a yoga teacher can do to start shifting it now? To really kind of, maybe it's not practical to go out and pay for a mentor right this very moment, but maybe there is something, there is a practice, like a weekly practice or a daily practice to do with yoga business that they could do right now to start changing how they approaching their business.
I think there's a couple of different things, and it's almost like you need to have, again, coming back maybe to that little bit of clarity, so we can start trying to implement things and it ends up being this scattergun approach, because actually I'm just trying a bit of everything, and you're not going to get the results you want if you don't have clarity around what it is that you want. So I think the first thing before you start the doing is the reflecting, going back to that. So what is it I would like to offer? And it doesn't mean I need to know where my business is going to be in 2 years or 5 years, or the big grand plan. It's like, what does the next 6 months, what do I want it to look like for me? What am I happy with? What am I not happy with? Where can I start to shift things? So that might be, what does my ideal working week look like? I don't want to work evenings. So how am I going to work towards dropping evenings and replacing that with something else? Some people might be able to say, well, actually, financially, I'm okay. And you know what? I'm going to sack it off next week and I'm just going to start doing it. And for other people, there might be that practicality of, now I need to do the nuts and bolts planning. So does that mean I'm going to drop one of those classes and build one other class in the day? And when that other class is working, I then drop the second evening and build that up. So you have to have the practicality, but it needs to start with that clarity of what do I want to do and where do I want to be. And it's almost like I call reverse engineering. Where do I want to be in 6 months or 9 months or 18 months? And what do I need to put in place to get there? And sometimes we get there faster than we think, and sometimes we get there slower. It doesn't really matter. It's about consistently moving towards where you want to be and making sure you have some time every week for that reflection and for that longer term planning or implementing bigger projects, because otherwise we get caught up in the weekly to-do list, and another week and another month and another 6 months and another year has passed before, and we're like, well, I still haven't even started that thing that I said was really important to me. So start with the reflection, and I would probably, take some time. You can have little daily reflections or little weekly reflections, but once a month at least, I would sit down and really seriously step out. And sometimes people talk about it working on your business rather than in your business. It's a little bit of kind of, business terminology that's sometimes used, but basically step out of the day-to-day and look at, am I moving closer to where I want to be? Because if I'm not, then I'm moving away from it. Or I'm treading water. But I don't really ever believe you're treading water. I believe that tide is pushing you further away if you're not moving forwards. So small, consistent steps to making the changes you want to be. So they're sustainable, they're not so scary, they're a time frame that works for you. And that also means that if that does involve some kind of financial commitment to a training, to a mentor, to a coach, to whatever it might be, you can start to plan that in as well. Like, how am I going to plan in how I support this thing that I want to do going forwards, this investment that I want to do? Don't need to do it tomorrow. I can plan and say, I want to be able to do it in 6 months' time. How am I going to make sure that that feels okay for me financially?
I love it, what you just said. It sounded very much like trauma-informed approach, baby steps at the rhythm that is right for you, at the time that is right for you, planning ahead and moving along. And those baby steps, isn't it? Because it's a really fascinating thing. Like sometimes when I speak with yoga teachers, it's like they, sometimes they say, oh, I want more one-to-one clients. And then it's like, well, how many one-to-one clients? 5, 3, 2, 10? If you woke up tomorrow and you had 20 in your calendar, would you have systems, and would you be able to kind of hold space for them without crashing after a week? And so our growth needs to be right for us, at the right pace that is right for us. And a lot of it depends on the way that we structure it and the support that we have around us. And, you wouldn't approach, and this is the thing as well, that like you wouldn't approach going to any other business or any other work and kind of go, oh yeah, I just post a little bit on social media, see what happens, and, and kind of run a couple of classes, and why is nobody coming? And, I posted for a week and nothing is happening. That kind of thing, it's really approaching it from that different perspective as a business. That is passion, but also, that pays for itself.
And setting strong foundations. So, we wouldn't build a house without having a foundation at the bottom of the house. We can't build a really good business without having some good foundations at the bottom. Otherwise, it will all come crumbling down as well. And having some support, whether that's peer support, mentoring, community of like-minded people, is part of that foundation. It really is.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Dawn, for this conversation today. And I wonder if you could just say a few words if people want to reach out and check out your work. I know that you've got a membership for yoga teachers, and you deliver a lot of training and you do mentoring. So if you could just say a few words where people can find you.
Thank you. So as Aneta was saying, I offer different things to different people, regardless of depending on what support you need and where you are in your journey. So I do a lot of further training, things like yin and yoga nidra trainings and some one-day CPDs on that side of things. I have a membership for yoga teachers, which is really about supporting you to grow your business skills, and we have trainings and Q&As and fun in there. I have one-to-one coaching and mentoring, and then I also do events like yoga teachers retreats, where we have a strong teaching skills and business focus as well. So if you want to come and find me, you'll find me on Facebook on if you type in Dawn Wright, and then I think it says yoga teacher, teacher trainer and business coach, but it will come up. Or my website is yogabusinessmentor.com. So all the stuff that I do is on there. And thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, Dawn, for taking time, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you.